Welcome everyone to the Cashflow Academy. If you're new, we try to make investing fun, simple, and real. And today we're going to talk about books that have made a meaningful difference in my life, and specifically some reviews of various books that can take you to a new level in your trading and investing journey. So to start off, I'm going to start back, 25, 30 years ago. I first read the book by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I remember I was actually reading the book on a plane. And the individual sitting next to me, through most of the flight, we didn't chit chat really. At the end of the flight, he started talking to me that he worked in the real estate market and noticed that I was reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then we struck up a conversation. And in the process of that conversation, he talked about how housing prices roughly double every 10 years. And of course, I had taken statistics classes in college. I understood compounding, and it had never really struck me that, oh yeah, they probably double about every 10 years like the stock market does. In fact, the old rule of 72, if something has a 10% return, then it will double in value every 7.2 years, right? And so when you think about housing prices, stock prices, you have to work from a basis that understands that long-term, those prices are going to get more and more expensive. So if you're looking at an S&P 500 at 6,000 points, you have to understand that in 10 years, it can be at 12,000 points. And then 10 years after that, it can be at 24,000 points. And roughly every 10 years, these asset prices will double. Now, of course, it's not perfect clockwork. We go through bull markets. We go through bear markets. Sometimes they double in 8 years. Sometimes it takes 12. Sometimes it takes 14. You can have a lost decade mixed in there. And so that's where some other opportunities arise. That's why the options market is so amazing, because you can generate income while your stocks are not going up. So first book recommendation, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It made a meaningful difference in my life. And the book is about mentors, finding mentors that will take you to a new level, that will challenge your natural instinct and give you insights into things that maybe you hadn't thought about, or now you learn to think about them in a different way. One of my greatest mentors is Andy Tanner, the founder of the Cashflow Academy. And Andy is a rich dad, or has been a rich dad advisor for Robert Kiyosaki. As a Rich Dad advisor, the next book on the recommendation is 401 Chaos. And Andy does an amazing job in that book about teaching you why Wall Street makes the vast majority of profits over time in a 401k. Those fees will absolutely eat you up. And so there are ways to get invested in the markets. There are ways to do things and avoid a lot of the fees that are out there. And we want you to do that because we want you to keep the lion's share of the capital. So if you haven't read 401 Chaos, it is a smack you upside the head, really teach you about some of the flaws and some of the problems within the 401k industry. And again, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is about finding mentors, about finding people that can teach you, can help you to learn, to grow as an individual, to grow as an investor. Some of the things that Andy has taught me over time are meaningful. One of those is when you think about traditional finance, most people think kind of the Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, hey, let's cut out all expenses, skip the coffee, skip the this, skip the that, and basically live a life where you're skipping all these things that maybe you enjoy to try to get ahead. And Andy has an entirely different twist on that. The basic idea is that actually I want my expenses to go up. If my expenses are going up, that means that I'm probably living a life that I want to live. I might want to live in a nicer neighborhood. I might want to eat healthier foods that cost more money. I might want to go to ball games or to get my kids into different programs that cost money. I want certain things and they cost money. So we actually want our expenses to go up. How do we offset that? We have to learn how to create more income. Now, if our income always exceeds our expenses, now we're cash flow positive every single month. And that is how you stay ahead. And so how do we do that? We call it stacking income. Stacking income means you might have the traditional job, but you can also be stacking income because you invest in other areas. And one of the easiest ways to stack income is to learn how to trade options. Options are amazing. Options can stack income because I can go out and click a button, literally in 5 seconds, click a button and get paid income. I can sell a covered call against my stock and bring in $500 in an instant. I can go out and sell some puts to buy a stock I want to own at a lower price than where it's trading right now. In other words, somebody pays me money to buy the stock I want at a cheaper price, and immediately $1,000, $2,000 comes into my account. Stacking that income up and then getting that investment income working back into stocks, putting it back into assets. So stacking income allows you to have your expenses go up over time, live a more meaningful life, do the things that you want to do, and you're exceeding your expenses by stacking that income and staying cash flow positive each and every month. Now, some of you might want to get into active trading. If you want to become an active trader, the quote unquote Bible of stock trading is a book called Reminiscence of a Stock Operator. Now, this book was written 100 some odd years ago. It's Edwin Lefebvre. And if you look it up, I mean, it is sort of the Bible of trading. And there's so many pieces of wisdom in this book. Things like the old bull, the guy that says, I made my money by sitting in the trends. I made my money by not being greedy and fearful and emotional. It is a bull market. I'm going to stay in bullish positions. When it turns into a bear market, I'm going to allow that trend to develop, to grow, to continue. And by the way, we're in a bear market cycle right now. So this is not the time to be pushing too aggressively on the trading side to the upside. Instead, we flip our mindset. We actually make money as traders as stock prices go lower. So if you haven't read it before and you want to become more of an active trader, might I suggest Reminiscence of a Stock Operator. Finally, if you want to be in options, first of all, get into the Cashflow Academy. There is no greater learning about the options market, about stock investing, about fundamental analysis, technical analysis, all of the things that we teach in our 4 Pillars program. That would be my first recommendation. But if you want a book that will at least take you to a higher level, you could look at, by Macmillan, Options as a Strategic Investment. And so that's a pretty good book. It's some heavy reading if you haven't really been introduced to the options market. But for those of you that have maybe been in the options market, you're a Cashflow Academy student, and you want some fun reading about options and to learn and to grow, that might be a recommendation as well. So on your hit list for books to read, first and foremost, go and make sure you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It is a game changer. Make sure you get into 401 chaos so that you learn how your 401k is flawed and what you might do about that. Get into the Cashflow Academy above all else. Make sure that you're learning. Make sure that you're spending time with mentors. Noah, Andy, the administration over at the Cashflow Academy, we try to give as much as we possibly can in the way of know-how, information, keeping up on market conditions, what trades, what opportunities are out there, and we're constantly sharing and collaborating with our members at the Cashflow Academy. So jump into that. You can look up Reminiscence of a Stock Operator and Options as a Strategic Investment. Thanks everyone for being here. Click that subscribe button. We try to share as much information as possible. Hit that bell to be notified the next time a video comes out, and just keep on the journey. Keep working, keep on that path. It's well worth it. We'll see you next time.